I'll tell you real quick what's crack-a-lacking here this morning. Headed to a location where I've been working on my buddy's dozer. He's developing some property out there, and he needed a gate. Needed a gate for the road. When he asked me about it, I told him about there's some gates that I've got. When I was serving the drilling industry, the very last gas company that I was working for had me building gates for their lease roads. And I built over 100 gates. Me and Tina was going out and installing them. Anyway, when I stopped serving that company, I had some gates left. He was wondering if I would build him a gate, and I told him to look at the ones I got and see if that would work. Well, he come by and looked at him. He said, "Oh yeah, that'll work." So we're installing some of these gates. One of these gates that's left over from the gas company that I used to work for. And I told my buddy that I would, if he paid me to install the gate, I'd give it to him. He's been giving me some work, and I don't mind doing that. And that's what's going on. They're being done a little bit different than I've done them before, although the way we installed them before, I wasn't crazy about. There was a part of it as far as installing the posts that I wasn't involved with, and they never did make a big enough hole for the posts, and they never did put enough concrete in the hole because the hole wasn't big enough. Now the way my buddy's wanting to do this gate we're installing now, he wanted to install it on a concrete pedestal, a concrete pad. So that's how we're doing it. And I'm going to do some bracing on it, and we're going to get this gate installed and see how it works out. If y'all want to check it out, then come along. There's a couple really quick things I learned when we went out to the location and looked at the two concrete pads that they poured to set these gate posts on. First thing we learned real quick, we weren't there very long because that concrete wasn't ready to do anything to it. It had been cold. It's obviously not a mix that's got a lot of rapid setting qualities, and it's nowhere near ready where we can drill or anchor anything. That concrete, I would say, from what I could tell, needed at least 4 days before you could do anything to it. So I said, well, next thing is the elevation of the two pads that they poured, the way they dug down to get to solid ground before they poured the pads, the elevation's not the same. So my gate posts aren't going to be the same length. One's going to be higher than the other. Well, I wanted to go ahead and get fabrication done while we're waiting on concrete. So they shot elevation of the two concrete pads that we're connecting the gate posts to, and I know the difference in elevation. So with that allowed me to cut my gate posts to length. And the other thing that I found out when I was there was that the center to center of those pads are not the same as the center to center that we got to have for the gate posts for my gates to work. But I did get the gate post cut. The gate posts with the hinges on them, those are cut to length, and you'll see these holes in there, and I'll show you later what those holes are for. So I was able to do that, and I was also able to figure out how I'm going to add braces to the gate posts. I really feel like they need the braces in two directions. And the only thing that I have to connect those braces to is that concrete slab. I think the concrete slab, which is 45 inches by 48 inches and 12 inches thick, I think it'll be fine to hold the gate post. We just got to connect it well, brace it good, and put something there to latch the gate open. Because you know, with the gate, something you got to think about, if you got a hinged gate that moves good, you need a way to hold it open. Because you might open that gate, go to drive your truck through there, and a big wind come along and blow that gate. It'll blow it right into the side of your truck. So that's something to think about too. Now, one of the things that I've got to deal with, like I said, that I didn't expect to deal with, was the center to center of the concrete pads is not exactly the same as the center to center of the posts to make the gate work. I need 311 inches center to center on those posts for the gates that are already made to fit. And the center to center of the pads out there is 296 inches. That doesn't mean it's not going to work. We're going to make it work. That's no big deal. But it's just different than I thought. And because of that, to figure out the bracing, I was wanting to lay it out, and so I could see in my mind what was going on. If I'm going to put a brace in two directions with the post and figure out the length of those, I'm going to want to figure out what's going on. And for me, I'm a visual guy. I got to see it. And sometimes I got to draw stuff. I'll have to draw it on paper to get that vision in my mind of what the hell's going on. So I made a drawing of these two concrete pads. This is what it looks like, what I got. You know, there's a concrete pad right here. It's 48 inches this way. It's 45 inches that way. You know, there's one right here. It's 48 inches this way. It's 45 inches that way. The center to center of these pads, 296 inches. The center to center of the posts for my gate, 311 inches. You know, all of this, being able to draw this, and you know, if you guys that do AutoCAD, you guys are awesome. I don't even know how to use a desktop computer. This is what I got right here. Okay? This and this. So, but, you know, I focus on my channel. I try to focus on the fact that, you know, a lot of you guys are like me. You just, you know, you're learning to work with what you got. So I'm trying to show you the way you can do it if you don't have the whole AutoCAD computer system and know how to use it. So what I've got going on right here is an actual scale drawing that I've done with a calculator, a straight edge, and a pencil that lays out my post and where it's going to be on this pad. And my bracing, there would be a brace to the outside going right here, coming to the post. There'll be a brace from the side. And what these braces will look like, they'll look like an F. You know, if you got, I'm not left-handed, but I'm going to try this anyway. If you got your 4-inch post right here, the brace would be a 2-inch pipe that's kind of like a handrail. A vertical piece, a top bar, and an intermediate. So you got like a 2-inch pipe F that's bracing a 4-inch pipe. So you might know now why I cut holes in that pipe, because I'm going to let my 2-inch pipe go inside that post, and then I'll weld it. And this area right here, I'll have a little adjustment. Now, there's a lot of times on piping and plumbing and stuff where you would not want to fit your pipes together that way, where you just burn a hole and jam it in and weld it. This is structural, so it doesn't matter. If that 2-inch pipe goes in that 4-inch pipe, 1/4 of an inch or 2 inches, you know, it doesn't matter. It's a structural thing. This is a quick and easy way to do it without coping the 2-inch to fit the 4-inch. So let's talk about this. If we talk about like, okay, well, how do I have a scale drawing here? What's the simple way to do that? Well, I calculated when I measured out there that those pads are 296 inches center to center. So if that's a 48-inch pad that's 296 inches center to center, then from the center to out here, I would add 24 inches, and from the center of this one out here, I would add 24 inches, and I would know that this whole thing from outside to outside is 344 inches. Well, I'm not going to lay it out that big. If I just want to look at it, I'm going to lay it out on whatever size paper I got. So I'm going to say, I got about 18 inches of area that I'm going to make a drawing of this thing. Roughly 16, 18 inches I want to lay this thing out. So I'll start, if this is the biggest number I got, 344 inches outside to outside, I'll start dividing that by numbers. And I want to show you, this is a project calculator. This is a really affordable calculator that you can get your hands on, that you can use to do fractions. It's got your inches, feet, yards if you figure concrete. It's got carpet, tile, wallpaper, paint. There's all kind of stuff on here that you can use. But what I use the most is just the feet and the inches. Now, I figured to get this to fit on here, I ended up coming up with, I want to divide by 20. You just start dividing your number by whatever, until you get what you want. Now, if I take 344 inches and I divide that by 20, I get 17 and 13/16. Well, that's what I wanted for this dimension to fit on my paper. I wanted something between 16 or 18 inches. So if you want to draw something and you want to draw it to scale, what I'm trying to tell you is you figure out what space you want to put it on, then you figure out what to divide it by to reduce it down to that space. And any other dimension that I want to draw on this paper right here, I'll just divide it by 20. The center to center of 296 inches, if you divide that by 20, you can draw it to scale on this paper. If you want to know how to draw on this paper to that exact same scale, this concrete pad that's 48 inches, take 48 inches, divide it by 20, and it'll tell you what size to draw it on the paper. And then when you draw it on the paper and you've divided every measurement by 20, you're looking at a scale drawing of what you want to do. And this is, this helps me a lot to give me an idea, because, now I know, which I didn't know until I laid this out, but now I know that if it's 296 inches center to center of the concrete pads that they poured, and my difference, my center to center that I need on my post is 311, then my post is going to be 16 and a half inches from the back of those concrete pads. From the back, from the outside in, 16 and a half inches. Well, that tells me about my bracing here. And if I know this is 45 inches this way, I can figure the pretty close length of my bracing here. That helps me figure out my outside bracing and my side bracing. And since I'm using the technique where I'm burning holes in the 4-inch pipe and shoving the 2-inch pipe in it, that gives me a little bit of adjustment. So I'll be connecting, we're going to have a base plate welded on our 4-inch pipe that'll be connected there to that concrete pad. And then there'll be a couple of plates connected to the side of that concrete pad that my bracing is going to get welded to. So let's take a look at what one of these F braces looks like. I started putting these together. I've got the long vertical bar and this would be the top bar. And I just did this with a 45-degree miter right here. And then right here I've got my intermediate, which is coped to fit in 2-inch pipe to 2-inch pipe. Well, I guess I want to show you real quick. I coped this 2-inch pipe with my saw. And I do use a DeWalt 872 with the expensive metal blades. This is different than one of the much cheaper abrasive blade saws. This is a more expensive setup, but those abrasive blade saws will work and do this same thing. So I just want you to know that it can be done that way. This is what one of your coped pipes looks like if you cope pipe with a chop saw like this. And like I say, it can be one of these DeWalt 872s or whatever, Evolution. There's different companies that make them that's got the metal blade and the tungsten carbide teeth. But to save a bunch of money, if you don't need one of these, you can also use one of the high RPM saws that are a lot cheaper that take the abrasive blades that wear out a lot faster. But this is what I got going on as far as coping this. You can see probably if you want to cope pipe like this with a chop saw, you make 2 cuts. You figure out what angle it takes, and different size pipe, you probably want to cut it on a different angle. You just have to, you goof around with some scrap till you figure out what you need. In this case, we're at about 25 degrees, and you would put this down, you'd make a cut with your chop saw, then you roll it. You're going to roll that pipe completely over 180 degrees. You make a second cut with your chop saw, and you've got a cope there where your 2-inch pipe fits another 2-inch pipe. So that's how I cope these with the chop saw. And another thing I'm going to show you, right here I've got me a square that I got me a square right here. You can see that's holding this square. This will hold this here. I got it clamped for me to weld it. And this is just one that I made out of a 2x2 square tubing. If, you got some scrap tubing and you want a square like this, you can make that. If you can justify spending the money with Fireball tool to buy one of those really nice cast aluminum squares, you can do that with this. And that's great. I can't justify spending that much on something like that could get broke that easy. When I got scrap laying around, I can come up with a piece of scrap and I can make it 90 degrees and clamp it, and I can do it that way. So that's how I do stuff a lot. And I don't know if you saw my video on reading the tape measure and doing trade math. But I used some trade math when I made this square because I was going to make my square 2 foot by 2 foot altogether. So I got 24 inches from here to there. I cut this on a 45. So if you go back 45 on a 2x2, you'd lose 2 inches right here. And same thing here, you'd lose 2 inches. So from this point, this long point, which would be about right there, to right there, if you got to figure like how long am I going to cut this piece? Listen, guys, try to remember this when you're calculating, and it'll make it easier in a lot of cases on bracing. When you got something that's 90 degrees and it's so much this way, and you're going to put something across there on a 45, remember, multiply it by the number 1.411. You can take your project calc, get your project calc. I knew from right here to right there is 20 inches. So you obviously, this from here to right there, it's 20 inches. I got 20 inches. I want something to go across there at 45 degrees. Take 20 inches and multiply that by 1.411, and it will tell you the distance at 45 degrees from right here to right there. That's a good one to remember. If you got to do some bracing, you're going to run a brace on 45 degrees. You don't always have to do a squared plus b squared equals c squared. If it's 45 degrees, just measure it up. Take your project calc, multiply that number by 1.411, and that'll tell you how to cut, or what that distance is at 45. Now, if you're putting a brace in and it's 20 inches this way and it's 37 9/16 the other way, you're going to have to go a squared plus b squared equals c squared, and that gets a little more complicated. But more often than not, you're doing the 45. So, got four of these braces that I'm going to get welded up, and I got some angle iron clips to cut, and we'll see what goes on from there. But we're gonna keep going on this and get this gate dealt with. You recognize the base plate? Go post a video on those before this ever gets done. These are the concrete pads for these gates, for this set of gates. He dug down to solid ground. That's what he was trying to do before he put them concrete pads. The gas company that I used to put these gates in for, I didn't set the posts. There was an excavation companies that would auger holes and set the posts in the hole and concrete them in. They never did put enough concrete in them. In my opinion, I mean, they were putting these 4-inch pipes in 8-inch holes. That's not enough concrete. I think 3 times your post diameter would be the minimum diameter of a hole. On a 4-inch pipe, I would do at least a 12-inch hole, 4 to 6 feet deep. Doing this with these pads, I don't know. The thing is, later, my buddy that's doing this, later on in the part of developing this property, he'll be able to use these pads. There'll be an entrance here, and this gate is going to be gone. That's the plan now. We don't know how long the steel gate's going to be here, but we don't want it to fall down either. I'm not going to completely half-ass it. I think these concrete pads are going to hold this gate just fine. He said them pads weigh like 1,200 pounds, and at their size, I think it's going to be good. So I'm here just to set the plates in place. I'm going to put some glue under the plates, put the bracing up if I can, get things tacked together. Now there's 3/4 inch bolts that are going to get epoxied to hold these base plates, and we're not doing that yet. And I honestly don't think the concrete's ready to do that yet. It's acting really weird. I had a lot of trouble finding the right combination of bits and screws to just screw these plates in place to glue them down and do what I'm wanting to do. We're going to put some Gorilla Glue underneath the plates. That'll kind of help keep from getting a lot of water under the plate and freezing and having it hoove up and make a mess. But I've got all the posts. I've got the 2 posts and the 4 braces here. And I just wanted to show you what I was into so far. I'm going to put the glue on these plates and screw them down, and we'll keep going with this. You can get a better idea as we go along what this is going to look like. It's shaping up. updatification in the situation. The pipe braces that I got, the way I figured I was going to put them on there, I got some 3/8 plate that I put on there with a tap con, and then I'd already put like a 9/16 or a 5/8 hole in it, so that I could run a 1/2 inch masonry bit in there and drill a hole in the concrete. And then I drove a piece of rebar. I filled that hole full of glue, and I drove a piece of rebar in there about 5 inches long, 6 inches long. And I'm going to weld that piece of rebar to that plate. And then I'm going to weld this piece of angle iron to that plate. And that pipe will set right here and weld on braces going to the back, and there's braces going to the side. Something that happened here that I didn't expect. I've run rebar in holes a bunch of times with glue. I've run smooth rod in holes a bunch of times with glue, and then taken and welded the rod to the plate, you know, just basically made a nail, a big nail, and welded the nail to the plate. I've done that a bunch of times. I've installed columns that way. I've done all kind of stuff that way with concrete. Never had any trouble, and I didn't really have any trouble I couldn't overcome on this one. But I'll tell you, something happened that didn't normally happen. I was driving them first ones in there, and they were squishing back out. The pressure of the glue that I had inside of there, that glue was thick enough. You know, the epoxy that I've done this with a lot of times is a lot thinner than that glue. Well, that glue was sealing the air off, so there was an air pocket inside of there, and that air couldn't get out, so the rod couldn't go in. And this is what I did to fix that problem. I took the rebar and I took a grinder and I cut a groove in it. Like this. I just cut a groove in one spot, pretty deep with a grinder. After I'd done that to those, I took it over there and drove it right in. And the glue that was extra in the air squished out of that trough that I'd made in it. So that's what I had to do, but I'm going to keep going on this. It's the next morning because it was pretty late, getting dark actually, when I got that welded up last night. I got them both welded up. Yeah, I was late. I just had a lot of delays early with my hole drilling and getting the right screws. I didn't expect that, but you know, I got done what I planned on getting done. So I just figured, you know, it was getting dark, and I didn't shoot any video last night, so I stopped up here this morning to take a look and show you. And you know, I prefabricated those braces, but I had a few things that gave me adjustment. You know, the way I cut the holes in that pipe and could slide the brace in and out, slide that 2-inch in and out of that 4-inch. That gave me some adjustment. And this is another thing that you can do if you want to prefab something with adjustment. Now with pipe, just about all pipe sizes work this way. That's a piece of 2.5-inch pipe that slides nice over a 2-inch pipe. And you know, a 3-inch pipe slides nice over a 2.5-inch pipe. You know, a 5-inch pipe slides nice over a 4-inch pipe. So like you can fabricate your 2-inch pipe a 1/2 inch short and carry you a piece of 2.5-inch pipe that's 2 inches long. And then you got a sleeve, so if you get out here and something's a little wonky, and you actually got an inch gap there instead of a 1/2 inch gap, it doesn't matter because of the way you're welding it up with the sleeve. It appears to be, as late as I was here last night, there appears to be evidence that my buddy that owns this property was out here, because I see a fairly fresh remnant of last evening's relaxificationizers. The way that's floating on top of that ice makes me think that got chucked there last night. So maybe the boss was up here. I don't know. That's his brand. But one important thing about getting a look at this now is I'm on the way back from the gym, and it's 23 degrees out here, so I hope you got a good enough look, because I'm out here in shorts. We're going back to the shop. Stopping at the light here on the 4-lane. I think I just saw a substantial hunk of somebody's exhaust in the road, in the 4-lane. This sun, the way it is this morning, this sunshine, somebody's going to hit that, and it's going to cost them a wheel and a tire. Maybe worse if it hits something up under their vehicle. We're turning around. I'm going to go see if I can get that out of the road. It's worth watching for that stuff. The way the sun shines on the road, I barely saw that. There's something about firing up this old brick-nosed dually. I don't know what it is. I just like it. Them boys have been here and put the anchor bolts in, epoxy them in on the base plates. Looks like they did a little backfilling around this pad. That's pretty schmutzy. Just run the gates up with the old brick nose dually. One of my other videos, I rolled up a strap on video with my strap roller, and I had a comment recently on that video saying, boy, it sure would be nice or whatever to see how you made that strap roller. That sleeve is just a 1/2-inch pipe, and everything else is just a 1/2-inch round bar. Actually, I don't know that that's 1/2 inch. I think it might be smaller than that. It goes right there. I'll show you. Well, oopsie poopsie, I forgot to film erecting them gates. I got up there, somebody's supposed to meet me there at noon. I got up there and there wasn't anybody there. And I thought, well, I had beef liver for lunch. I was feeling that fire. I just grabbed them gates and said to hell with that hoe and set them up there by hand. Done it by myself. Best way to do it, get it done. I texted my buddy that owns that property. He said his boy was supposed to beat me up there and he was going to call and give him hell right then. I said, LOL. We were texting. Anywhooser, I forgot the tie back chains. We're rolling back into the shop. I'm going to get the tie back chains. We'll run back up there and I'll get some footage of the gates. Sorry I didn't film setting them. I wasn't thinking of you guys. That was a bad doozy. That's what the gate looks like open. Each side's 12 feet. And I'm just going to show you this, pretty simple, but I just put a tab that would be supportive if you left it open for a long time. I put a tab here. And then if you're driving through, you should really chain that, because you know, if he's driving through here and the wind caught that guard plate on the end and closed it, it'd smash your truck. Let's close it and take a look. Now we're in the closed position. That's what the gate set looks like. Each side's got an adjuster that I'm going to show you, but the adjuster isn't holding anything right now because I've tacked that plate right there. Now, I don't know if you're going to be able to smell what I'm stepping in or not, but this plate, this hinge plate that's on the post, has a 1-inch hole. That's a 1-inch bolt. It's welded to that plate right there that's got a 1-inch hole in it, and the bolt's welded to that plate. This plate that's on the gate, it has a 2-inch hole in it. That allows for some adjustment. You get something out of level or whatever, distance is different than you want. Since this has a 2-inch hole in it, you can adjust it some. This adjuster is a nut welded to a piece of 1.5 by 1.5 1/4-inch wall square tubing, where a 1-inch threaded rod will go through it. Now, when I put this 1-inch bolt welded to this huge washer through the 2-inch hole in this, and I move this with the adjuster to get that thing where I want it and everything's lined up good, and then I tack that plate to that plate, now this plate can no longer move. Now you could grind that tack and turn this nut and adjust that again if you wanted to. But that tack right there is all it's going to take with everything. I mean, this nut right here is actually holding weight. But if I'd tighten this nut, it would pull on this gate right here, and this plate would slide back where there's room. You know, of course, you got to cut that tack first. But this adjuster, I put an adjuster on each side. There's a lot of the gates like this that I designed and that I installed for Antero, where I just put an adjuster on one side and welded the other side, and you can only adjust one side. The big problem with that gas company was that the bases, the holes that they had, the posts in didn't have enough concrete in them, and the posts were moving all the time, and it never did work. But let me show you the latch bar system that I come up with years ago and been using. If you look at these, what we want, customers always ask for some kind of a guard, and the guard here is this plate. Whenever I say guard, customer, when they want you to do a gate and they're asking for a guard, they're talking about you doing something so that they can put a lock on the gate that's not easy to cut with a set of bolt cutters. You know, they want it so that you can't easily take a 4-inch grinder with a cutting wheel, cordless grinder with a cutting wheel, and walk up there and just zip the lock off and you're in. when they're telling you they want some kind of guard on the lock. Now there's a million ways to do it. This is just one of the ways I did it, and I'll kind of show you how this deal works. Part of the latch bar system here and these plates has to do with having your locks guarded so that they're hard to cut with bolt cutters or a sawzall or a cordless grinder or whatever. Another part of it is being able to have more than one lock, which is a situation that people run into a lot. Especially in my area here in the Appalachian Basin, you'll have a property owner, and then you may have a gas company that has rights to enter the gate, and then you may have, you know, other entities, a logger that has some, or maybe somebody with a hunting lease, and all of those entities may have a different lock and a different key, and they'll do that in a way that maybe only the property owner has all the keys. So if he doesn't want the logger on the property no more, he can go remove the logger's lock and put his lock where the logger's lock was, and the logger can't get in. That's just, I'm just making up a scenario. It, you know, it could be whatever. This is set up to have 4 locks, maximum 4. The way I'm going to leave this with a latch bar, it can also have 2 locks. It can also have 3 locks. Depends on how you set it up. But let me show you the main latch bar, and then I'll show you the little latch bars, and maybe you can start seeing what I mean about the locks. When you close the gate, what you got right here is a 2x2 3/16 wall square tubing. This latch bar is 1.5 inches by 1.5 inches, 3/16 wall square tubing. Each side has that, so that bar can slide in there. Well, when you put these together, then you slide your bar in here. You can put a lock on that square tube right there. You can put a lock on that square tube right there. In that scenario right there, with that latch bar going through it and a lock on each side, you'd have 2 locks. And those locks would be hard to cut off there with a cordless grinder or sawzall or a set of bolt cutters, because you just can't, it just won't fit in there. It's only 2 inches. So let's look on about this a little bit more. Now, if you want 4 locks, you got, what you got on the end of here is 1.5 inches by 1.5 inches, 3/16 tube. What I got right here is a 1x1, 1/8 wall square tube. Now, if I slide that latch bar through the gate and I put the 1-inch tube like that and a 1-inch tube like that, now I can use 4 locks. A lock here, a lock here, a lock here, and a lock here, and they'll all be protected by that plate. So that's the latch bar system deal. And the one thing I've never seen done before on gates like this is setting them on a pedestal like that. I understand why he's wanting to do that, and he can use that pedestal later and all of that, and it looks to me like it's going to work. I hope we got it braced up good enough there. And we're going to give this thing a shot. That's pretty much it for this one, so thanks for watching. Hey y'all, we're coming to you from the break room here at MBS Weld, and I want to show you the t-shirts we got. The MBS Welding t-shirts got MBS Welding on the front, American flag on the sleeve, Great big NBS welding here on the back. Helps the channel if you buy a t-shirt. If you're interested in a t-shirt, send Tina an email request. nbswelding@aol.com. Thank you.